this feel like some kind of meme? That's worse. Hello humans of the world, I'm Dawn of the World, welcome aboard. Tonight I'm wearing a snooty blanket thingo, and that is because I'm too tired and too lazy to change into anything else. Also, like, it's kind of cold here, but you know what's not cold? Magma. And you know what's made of magma? The sun. I'm kidding, the sun is not made of magma. Imagine if it was though, like the sun would be a rock. Well, chapter 1050, how about that? After 2 whole years, the raid on Onigashima has ended. And after exactly 10 years, Luffy has defeated Kaido as first spoken about in Punk Hazard. Oh gosh, has it really been 10 years since Punk Hazard? Man, I'm getting old. The raid has succeeded. However, they feel a little strange, don't they? Things feel incomplete. And I think it feels that way intentionally, especially given the number of us who are feeling this way. Yes, the raid is over. Yes, Luffy's battle with Kaido is over. However, Wano is not over, and I believe that Kaido, and for that matter, Big Mom's character arcs, are not quite over either. There are various different subplots and details that have not come to fruition, which is leading me to believe that there may still be a substantial amount of the Wano arc to come. But the raid is over. And when you think about it, Wano was never meant to end with the raid ending. Of course, there is always a few chapters after the action to decompress, to learn new information, a la Enies Lobby, Fishman Island, Dressrosa, etc. But with Wano, I think things are going to be a little bit different. We had gotten up to this point in the Onigashima raid where I've seen some people, even for up to over a year, saying that the kabuki-like act structure Wano had been built on has since dissolved and that we'd be getting no more acts beyond Act 3. I remember reading someone's analysis on, I think, Tumblr, it was, where they suggested that since Luffy, the Straw Hats, the Supernovas, etc. were outsiders who were not a part of Wano, that they were not bound by the rules of the kabuki play that the characters of Wano were, and that through preventing a tragedy from occurring to Kinemon back in chapter 1000, they had broken the Act 3 ending and tragedy formula, and had therefore toppled the whole kabuki act structure itself, and that therefore the rest of the Wano arc would no longer play out like a kabuki play. As great as analysis as this was at the time, I'm not sure that it still stands. Even though that the raid is over, I still feel like there is a portion of Wano that needs to play out. There will still likely be an Act 4 and Act 5 to come, albeit a lot shorter than Act 3, probably a lot more akin to the lengths of parts 1 and 2. Not to mention that Act 3 still hasn't ended, which is a little strange because to me 1049 or 1050 would have felt like a decent and natural place to close that act. But Oda is holding out on us because perhaps Oda is still planning to go about the Act 3 ending and tragedy route. And of course, if this is the case, the tragedy in question hasn't fully unfolded or made itself known just yet, but it's coming. In this case, there are a few things that this tragedy might be. For example, a typical tragedy could be a death. Both Kiku and Kinemon seem to be in a pretty bad shape. However, if either of them were to die, I think it would have already happened back when, you know, we thought they might have actually died. I mean, what would be the point of having this moving and emotional scene where it had looked like they had died, only to reveal a little bit later, oh, they actually didn't die, only to have it revealed a little bit later again of, oh, look, they actually did die. How about that? While it would work for putting Usopp, who's been trying to take care of them for these past several chapters, into a potential point of self-blaming, which could be the low point of which he starts the Elbaf arc at, it would otherwise seem rather pointless and wasteful. But if there is to be a death to act as a tragedy at the close of Act 3, it could easily be that of somebody else. Perhaps somebody who is also currently in a bad shape. So maybe, I'm just gonna throw this out there, I feel like something rather deathy has just happened to Zoro. I mean, with all that he endured during his various battles during the raid, the drugs he needed to take to prolong his vitality, this was all when he was well past his limit, and Miyagi even saying that he feared what was to come next. Not to mention the whole Grim Reaper shebang. something has happened to Zoro which could quite possibly act as the tragedy to close Act 3. In the long run, I don't think that Zoro is technically dead or is going to stay in this death-like state, but I do think that there's something up. He's beyond the point of a normal injury. Something is up, and it's something along the likes of which we haven't seen before. I don't think that Zoro is dead, but I also don't think that he is exactly alive. And whatever has happened to him, the effects are going to be felt for at least the next arc to come. I'm going to leave my Zoro thoughts right there for now because I think I can make a whole other video out of that, and I have been meaning to, time allowing. I am counting down the weeks until my course ends, let me tell you that. There are of course several other ways that Oda can go about ending Act 3 in tragedy if the typical kabuki act structure is still how he is wanting to unfold the rest of Wano. A volcano has just erupted. That's certainly a vehicle for mayhem and tragedy. Not to mention that the world government now have it in their interest to annex Wano country and to force it to join the world government, meaning that Wano will have escaped the reign of Orochi and Kaido, only to fall into the clutches of other tyrants. But whatever this tragedy might be, if Oda is wanting to go down that route, it will be coming very soon. Should we be continuing the typical kabuki structure, after this we will be going into Act 4, where we could be seeing some more action in some kind of capacity, though I don't think it's any longer going to be against Big Mom and Kaido. I think that in terms of Luffy and the allies fighting, Big Mom and Kaido are done for now, though I reckon that they both definitely have roles to play somewhere down the track. I don't think that the magma is going to kill them. If there were anyone else, yes, and if they were in for it for a longer period of time, then maybe so, but I believe that they may have been blasted out of the volcano, and I reckon that this is One Piece. They're both kind of monsters. I think they could possibly survive that. So if there is a additional conflict in Act 4, then possibly it could be against the world government, possibly it could be against the Blackbeard pirates in the event that they arrive. I don't really feel that strongly that the Blackbeard crew is going to show up just yet, or it may involve somebody else. And then after 4, of course, there's Act 5, which would be typically short and sweet and kind of tie everything up before we move on to whatever the next arc may be. Regardless of whether or not Oda is looking to break the kabuki structure, however, what he has broken is his own structure, as far as we can see right now, which brings us back to why almost everybody feels that this ending of Onigashima, of the raid, feels a little bit strange. It feels a bit weird. Something feels a bit off. And part of why this feels weird is that aside from Nami, we didn't get to see any of the Straw Hats' reactions to Luffy winning his fight against Kaido, this guy he's been working towards defeating for the past 10 years. The Straw Hats' reactions to Luffy's victory is something that we always get to see. Chopper, Usopp, and Frankie are preoccupied with the injured, one of which is Zoro. We see Brook in one panel holding Frankie back, and I don't believe we see Sanji, Robin, or Jinbei at all. This lack of reception alone, the defeat being that of Kaido aside, makes this feel like a very strange defeat. And for that matter, I don't think anybody in the crew, aside from Nami and Chopper, actually saw Luffy in his awakened form, which makes me wonder, why was Oda omitting this from the rest of the crew? It really shouldn't have been that hard to give everybody who wasn't Zoro just one little panel of them looking up at the captain in his awakened form in O as he defeated Kaido, a feat 10 years in the making. And I ask why, because I feel like there is a deliberate reason that Oda has chosen to do this. There's some kind of full picture that we are not seeing. And of course, there's also the question of Kaido's backstory. I think we were all expecting to have seen something a bit more substantial than a couple of snippets by this point, but if anything, this only makes me more certain that Kaido's character arc, his story, is not over yet. And yes, there's parts of his flashback that will probably be incorporated into other flashbacks, such as that of Rocks and the Rocks Pirates, but I just don't think that Kaido's story is done. I will emphasize that his fight with Luffy, this legendary battle, is over, and Luffy was the winner, but Kaido as a character, I don't think his story is over, and neither is Big Mom's for that matter. They both have unfinished character arcs which don't end in them being defeated by the worst generation, but arcs of which those defeats have sent them on the trajectory of resolving. I'm very interested in seeing what those two do next, and again, I have a couple of video ideas that I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys once I get the chance to get those out there, because if anything, events of recent chapters have just made me a bit more convinced. I mean, Kaido and Big Mom won't be the only defeated antagonists whose character arcs are yet to fully play out. I mean, look at Enel, we're definitely expecting expecting to see him again someday. That's gonna be weird. Look at Crocodile, one of the most iconic characters in the series. He definitely had a big role to play after Alabasta, and I would definitely say he has more of a role to play yet. We've seen nothing actually of Crocodile's backstory, and yet there's all of these interesting little hints and tidbits and implications as to who he used to be and what turned him into the person that he is now. Actually, I already have a video on my thoughts there. And man, look at Buggy. Need I say more? So if these antagonist stories aren't over, then I kind of doubt that Big Mom and Kaido's stories are over. But anyway, something else that I think we were all expecting at the end of the raid, but we haven't gotten yet, is the dawn. The sun rising, the 9 shadows. What happened to that? Like, Oda definitely hasn't forgotten about it. I've just been sitting here assuming, I guess for the last 2 years, that the ending of the raid, that the defeat of Kaido, the timeline for that would line up with the sun rising and casting 9 shadows across Wano. But I guess that would be too predictable at this point, because as far as I can see at the moment, it is not sunrise and the skies are not clear. There's a volcano happening. So it's a bit of a curveball. I don't know if this is related, but the presence of this volcano actually made me think back to, I think, chapter 156, when the crew were en route to Alabasta and there was this underground volcano that Nami educated them all on. I don't know if this is connected in any way, it just made me think of that. I have seen somebody saying that this particular eruption could result in another Sky Island being born, and that'd be pretty neat. I mean, back in 156, Nami talks about underwater volcanoes birthing islands, and sea stone is from Wano, and the property of the sea helps make up the island clouds as seen in Skypiea, so we very well could be seeing the birth of a Sky Island right now. On the other hand, or simultaneously, this volcano could potentially also lower Wano, or drastically change its geography in some kind of way. There is a lot going on, my dudes. So yes, we've yet to see the dawn, we've yet to see the 9 shadows. Something is gonna happen, guys. Wano is not over. We are about to be slapped in the face with something, and I don't know what. And I have so many questions still, like, why has Momo decided not to open Wano just yet? Why was Hiyori drawn like this, kinda weirdly blacked out in that one panel? Like, Oda, my guy, what is up with that? Why does something feel so off? I think I've answered that question in part. It's because of the lack of answered questions that we thought we'd have by this point. It's because we didn't see all the reactions to Luffy taking down Kaido, etc, etc. Like, why has Oda chosen to structure things in this particular way? What is he planning? And as I talk through this, there is one thing that I'm increasingly certain of. The raid is over, and the biggest event of Wano, the thing that just might define this arc, may be yet to unfold. Also, Yamato's moment with Luffy was adorable, and Otako's flashback with her father was adorable and heartbreaking, and I'm never gonna be over it. So what are you guys' thoughts? Are you feeling weird about this chapter 2? Is something crazy about to happen? Let me know. I'm tired, I'm wrapped in a wearable blanket, and I feel like this video is just me asking you guys a bunch of questions, but feel free to answer or not answer as you desire. I'm Dawn of the World, and I will see you next time. Later, guys.